Hello and welcome back. I'm going to have a look at the building shader for FS19 and how we can work with that to give us a mask for dirt and moss. Now what I've actually got here is a feeder ring that I've taken from Thornbrook. Now the textures that were applied to it in 17 were perfectly fine, but the conversion over to 19 hasn't really given, hasn't done it any favors, because it used a second UV gloss map and various other different things that is changed somewhat in 19. So what I want to do here is have a bit of a play, and I'm not very good at Blender, so I'm going to be kind of stumbling through this myself, but I wanted to do this and I figured why not hit record, bring you guys along, and then maybe you'll get something from it. So I wouldn't necessarily call this a tutorial. None of my Blender things are tutorials. They're just me kind of messing around and learning and bringing you guys along, for the ride, I guess. So what I want to do first of all here, I think, let's create a plane, and I'm going to scale this up. So what I want to do is kind of put this on the plane so it's not buried in the mesh, in the grid. So I'm going to switch my snap tool here over to faces, and then I'm going to grab the Z-axis, left control, and then snap that down to the plane, the face of the plane, so it's above the grid, so I can see a little bit easier. And then what I want to do is I want to apply a material to the actual feeder here. So I'm going to go to the material tab and just click new. We'll just call this feeder underscore matte. Everything else there is going to stay as it is. Now, because I want to use the building shader, I need to have a second UV map applied to this. So if I actually bring out a new window here and switch over to UV image editor, with my cursor in the 3D view over here, I'm going to hit tab, and we have this UV, which is basically one that was created by the original author of this feeder ring, and that's going to work perfectly fine with me, or for me. I don't need to do anything else with that. I can go with that one. If you wanted to, you could unwrap it again, but honestly that's fine. So like I said, we need to have a second one for the actual UV mask to work, because when we apply the building shader, if it only has the one UV map, it will cause errors and then not work properly. So I'm going to switch over to the data tab here, and you can see down in the UV maps we only have one. So what I'm going to do is double click here and then just arrow across to deselect all that text and add a 1 on the end of it. So this is going to be my UV map 1, and I'm going to click plus and add a second one, double click, and we'll just click over here somewhere to deselect the text, and then just go 2. These are going to be exactly the same for 1 and 2, doesn't matter in this particular case, because I'm not going to apply a diffuse texture to the actual model itself. All I'm going to be doing is just basically creating a texture that I can work with for my mask, because I'm going to use an albedo color within Giants Editor to give it the color that I want to get out of this. So what I'm going to do, I think, is use texture paint mode in this case to paint in around the edges that I want for where the actual dirt and moss is going to show up, because I've seen it done, and I will link that video in the description, because it's where I learned how to do this from that video anyway, and it's explained very, very well. That person used baked in ambient occlusion and then changed some things in paint.net to get the result that he wanted, but for me that didn't work very well, so I wanted to try something different here, and I haven't really played around with the texture paint mode in Blender, so I figured I would go for it, what the hell, and see what happens. So like I say, these UV maps are going to be identical. It doesn't really matter in this case. I'm just using it to create my textures that I want. So whoops, let's just make that a bit smaller so we can work with some things here. So I want to be able to see this, because I want to have this show up as I paint in with the texture paint mode. It will hopefully paint over here as well and then give me what I want. So At the moment I've got no textures created, so what I'm going to do is press T to bring up my sidebar here, and I'm going to go into texture paint mode, which will give me this. And at the moment I don't have any slots allocated, so I'm going to create a new slot. I'm actually going to use a diffuse color, so I'm going to do like so, and I'm going to change this name. I'm just going to call this spec mask 1. I'm going to change that to 2048 by 2048, and then we'll just click OK. You can see it changes everything to black, which does make it a little bit difficult, but that's fine. Then over here I'm going to select the texture that I've just created, or the slot, like so. So as I paint here, it should show up over here, and I'm actually using text draw as my brush. That's fine. So left mouse button I believe is white, right mouse button is black. I think that's how that works, but I'm going to use white anyway, so that's fine. Blend max mix, that's fine. We can have a play around with this, but I don't want to use just a straight brush. What I actually want to do here is change this over from space to airbrush, which will change some parts up here anyway, I think, maybe. We have some strength and radius, that's fine. I think they'll be okay at default. We'll go with that anyway and see what happens. So it should be okay. So what I'm going to do then is, if I press T and close that down, I'm going to paint in some dirt around these areas. Now my plan is to have kind of moss along the bottom and then dirt around the top ring, and then up around maybe up here somewhere. So if I press 3 to go into right view, side view, whatever view this is, I'm just going to kind of paint in around here, and then we'll just rotate the thing around as we go. So just go and left click and then paint, and as you the longer you hold it in one position, the more intense it will be. So we'll then just sort of rotate around. As you can see, it's painting in, as I'm painting over here, it's painting it on this texture as well at the same time, which is what I want. So that's good. So we'll kind of just go around here. I think the dirt would be, built up in this area somewhat. Might want to kind of bleed through onto the parts here a little bit, up into there. This is going to be kind of a bit of experimentation on my part on, how this is going to turn out. Might not be very good at all. We kind of do something like this. Now it's a bit difficult when you're with this, because I've already made a mistake over there, as you can see, painted in there, but that doesn't matter. It's okay. A bit of randomness is fine. You might want to kind of angle the camera, the imaginary camera here, so it's not going to paint through like I just did there. Just kind of go around and bleed a bit into there like that. And maybe move the camera again and just sort of tweak a bit up in here, like so. I'm getting it all over the place. It's okay, it doesn't matter. Like I say, a bit of randomness here and there, doesn't matter. We'll just do something like that. I'm just doing this really quickly, but for the finished product I would take a bit more time. This is just to kind of show you what can be done, I guess. We'll do something like that, maybe. And we'll just go around the inside here at the bottom. That's fine, doesn't matter. I guess I'm just doing this somewhat quickly. This is kind of my test run. This is just to see if this is actually going to give me what I want and work the way I want it to work. So I'll go sort of round in here, maybe something like this. Lead it up into the rails there. something like that maybe. And I could just do 7 on the numpad and just go around this top ring at the top here, like something like that, just to give it a bit of dirt in the top there, like maybe something like that. We'll see how that works. Okay, so this is going to be my, let's say this is dirt. So now that I've got that, what I want to do is save this image. So I'm going to go image, save as, create a new folder, and we'll just call this feeder, that's fine. And we have our feeder spec mask 1, so we'll save that one. I'm not quite sure how this is actually going to work, but we'll see. So if I press T, what I want to do here is create a new slot. And it's not something I've done before, so I don't know 100% how to do this. So let's add diffuse color. Let's call this spec mask 2 and go OK. If I select that one, you can see it's wiped it all out. So if I go T to close that down, then my idea is to actually paint in again with white around this bottom, and that will then be my moss. So we'll just kind of do around here like this. Again, I'm just doing this really rough and quick, but if it works, then this is what I will be doing in the future, but don't know if it'll work yet. So we'll just see what happens. So let's just go with that. I'm going to just go with that. So I've put my dirt and I've put my moss around the bottom here, just, you know, kind of seeing what happens. Don't want it to be too intense. So then this one I'm going to save as feeder spec mask 2, so we'll save that one. So let's go back into object mode, and I can close that down. And then what I need to do is, let's delete the plane because I no longer require that. And then I'm going to save the actual blend files, so we'll just go File, Save As, and we'll just call this feeder, that'll be fine, and save that. And then I'm going to export this out, and we're just going to see what happens. So let's do File, Export, Giant Size 3D, and we'll export that. So let's just save that again, close that down. Like I said, I don't quite know how this is going to work, but whatever. So what I want to do then is open this one up, and then I want to import the other one. So this is spec mask 1, spec mask 2, and I want to basically join those together. So I'm not sure. Let's try additive. Yeah, additive. I think additive is probably going to be the one to go with. Let's do that, and then we'll merge that down, something like that. That right? No, that's not right. Let's go back. Actually, let's close that down, because that's going to be, I'm just trying to work out in my head how this is going to actually play out, because the actual mask is a little bit weird. There's one channel, I believe, that doesn't actually do anything. Let's bring that one into there. So let's go red, green, blue. Let's duplicate that one and move that one up one, and then we'll go layers, import from file. We'll bring that one in, and that one needs to be there. So this is going to be my moss, and this is going to be my dirt. Okay, let's try that and just see what happens. So let's select the top one here, and I want this one to be red, so let's do paint bucket, and I'm going to bring that one all the way up to the top and make that one red, and then this one here is going to be green, and then this one here is going to be blue, and then we'll just go back to black on that one, and deselect. Okay, so this one here, the blue channel, is for our dirt. The green channel doesn't do anything as far as I know, but the red channel is for our moss. So the idea here is to kind of merge all these together. So if I actually deselect all of those, and we'll just select these bottom two. So I'm going to double click on that one and go multiply, and then merge that layer down. Deselect that one, select the green and this one here. And like I said, the green, as far as I know, doesn't do anything, but you need something there to merge it all together. So we're going to double click on that one and go multiply, and then merge down. Deselect that one, select this one and this one, double click, multiply, and then merge down. Then we're going to select this one, double click, additive, and then merge down. And we're going to select this one and additive and merge down. Okay, let's try that. So if we then go File, Save As, and I'm just going to then call this Specular Mask DDS, and we'll save. DXT1 with uvMaps super sampling. Okay, let's close that. So if I then open up the feeder i3D, first of all, what have I got here? So, do seem to have some kind of texture applied. That's okay, I can delete that. So let's go into material editing. We'll get rid of that texture because it's put it in the diffuse because that's what it was assigned to, but I don't actually need that. Now this is okay, so that's upside down. We don't want that either. So what I want to do then is let's delete that one, and we'll go back into here because something's not quite right there. Okay, so we've got a 90 degree on our X rotation. So I'm going to Control A and apply the rotation. I potentially could do that in Giants Editor, but I think it'll be easier to do it here. So I think what I might do is, yeah, let's delete that and create a new material. Let's try this and see if this makes any difference. But I should have no texture applied to that now. Let's try that, and we should be good on that. So let's try that one instead. Okay, so all learning all the time. Right, export Giants Editor. Yeah, that's fine. Export. Okay, so let's save that. Close that down. Let's go into here then. Okay, that's better. So now if I select this, the gizmo's the right way up. And we only have the one warning, which is the i3D contains non-binary index triangle sets. So to get rid of that, I'm going to go File, Save As, click on my i3D and change the Save As type to binary i3D files. And we'll go Save and Replace. And I'm going to close that down. This gives us our shapes file. I always like to do that at the beginning. And I'm going to open it up again. So now if we zoom into here, now I've got no normal or specular map, but I don't think this really needs anything too fancy. It's just a feeder ring. So what I'm actually going to do is change the gloss map to a default specular from the installation folder. So Farming Sim 2019 data shared. I'm just going to use, well, I might use default metal specular. Let's try that one and see what that does, because it is a metal ring at the end of the day. So let's try that, and then we'll do default normal. That'll be fine. And then what I'm going to do is open up the custom shader parameters here, and then FarmSim 2019 data shaders, and I want building shader, so I'm going to double click on that. No errors, so that's good. We come down to custom texture 0. If I click on this one here, go back to my desktop and then go into the folder feeder. I'm going to double click on this one, and we should have something like that. So it's actually made it black, which is not what I wanted. We do have our dirt. Let's go Control L. Oh, that's better. It's just the fact that it didn't have a light. So there we go, look. We now have our moss all around the bottom there, and our dirt here, and our dirt on the inside there. And a little bit up the top, I think. Yeah, not too much though, just enough to, give it an edge sort of thing. So I think that looks pretty good actually. That's not too bad at all. We have our moss coming up from the ground, which I think you would expect to have your moss, because this is always touching grass, theoretically. You could put some moss on the inside, I guess, as well, but I don't think that looks too bad. With our dirt here and whatever else, but it also has a good, nice, it's nice metal feeder ring, good colour. So if we go to here, we could actually potentially change this to whatever we wanted. So if I go into here, what have we got? 204. So let's try 64. It makes it a bit darker. Yeah, that's not too bad. That looks pretty good actually. I think that would look pretty good on a map, in my opinion. But you can have it whatever you want there. So if that was too much, we could, what was it, 204, 204, 204. So you could have it a bit brighter. Now, obviously you could set up some kind of albedo or diffuse texture for this as well. But this particular video was more about actually working with texture paint mode and the building shader, and how to get your dirt and your moss in particular areas that you wanted to apply to your model. I'm ShyWizard. Thanks very much for watching. I'll catch you on the next one.